I was supposed to see her as nothing more than my brother's wife. That was the role she played, the title she carried, and the boundary I was meant never to cross. But from the very beginning I couldn't. Their wedding took place in early fall, when the air had just begun to shift, still warm in the sun but with a crispness creeping into the evenings. The ceremony was held in her parents' backyard, a place that looked like it had never known sadness. The trees bowed gently in the breeze, and the garden was bursting with late blooms. Marigolds, hydrangeas, the last of the roses. People smiled like life was easy, like love was always simple and safe. She looked beautiful, of course. Everyone said so. But to me, it wasn't just that she was beautiful. It was something else. She didn't look like a bride. She looked like a moment you never forget. Something you know you'll remember long after everyone else forgets it ever happened. And standing there watching her say, "I do," to my brother, all I could think was, what if she wasn't his? Lauren. She had that kind of quiet presence that made everything else in the room feel like noise. She moved with the ease of someone completely comfortable in her own skin, without pretense or performance. There was elegance in the way she listened, how she tilted her head when someone spoke, how she never rushed to fill a silence. She observed more than she spoke, and when her eyes met mine for the first time that day, it was brief, but not neutral. Not nothing. After the wedding, the weeks blurred into family dinners, game nights, casual get-togethers. It all felt normal on the surface, but for me, those evenings started to feel like a stage. A quiet, intimate theater of restraint. I caught myself watching her too long, listening for her laugh like it was a song only I could hear. I started finding excuses to stop by, to stay late, to linger in conversations that didn't need me. And every time, it was under the guise of coincidence. She never encouraged it. But she never shut it down either. She held the space between us like something sacred, never pushing, never retreating. And still there was something. In the way she looked at me when no one else was watching. In the long, loaded silences where nothing was said, but everything was heard. One night after dinner, my brother went to bed early. A few beers had caught up with him, and he vanished upstairs without much ceremony. Lauren and I stayed behind, washing dishes, moving slowly in the soft hum of the house. The playlist she always put on for guests was still playing low in the background, some indie folk track with haunting harmonies, and the golden porch light through the window cast the kitchen in a kind of dreamlike glow. "You're never in any of the photos," she said suddenly, her voice barely above a whisper as she glanced at her phone. "It's like you're trying not to be seen." Shrugged. "It's just easier that way." And then quieter. "No one sees what they're not supposed to." She looked up at me, and for a moment, the air between us felt suspended. Thicker somehow. She didn't say anything right away. Just held my gaze too long, then dropped her eyes, like she understood what I hadn't meant to say out loud. "I see," she said. That moment stretched out into something fragile and electric. We didn't touch. We didn't move. But something shifted. Something dangerous and intimate passed between us in the silence. In the days that followed, I pulled away. I made excuses, dodged invitations, kept my distance. I told myself I was protecting my brother, protecting her, protecting myself. But really I was afraid. Afraid of how close I was to doing something I couldn't undo. And then she showed up at my job. Unannounced. Said she was just in the neighborhood, even though I knew she wasn't. Asked if I had time for coffee. And despite every instinct telling me to say no, I said yes. We sat across from each other in a small cafe where no one knew us. We talked like friends, careful and casual. But everything felt tight beneath the surface, like the words we weren't saying were louder than the ones we were. I couldn't relax. I kept watching her lips move, but all I heard was the sound of everything we weren't supposed to be feeling. In the parking lot right before we said goodbye, it all cracked open. She looked at me, her voice shaking just enough to betray the weight behind it. "Sometimes I think I'm living the life I'm supposed to. But not the one that's real," she said. "Do you ever feel that way?" I didn't answer. Not with words. Instead I kissed her. It wasn't long. Just a few seconds. But it was enough. Enough to confirm everything we'd been denying. Enough to feel the gravity of what we were doing. She didn't say goodbye. Just got in her car and drove away. Since then, we've existed in this space between lines. A limbo made of looks that last a second too long, of texts that don't say enough, of silence that says too much. We haven't crossed that line again, but we've never truly stepped back either. And now, whenever someone mentions her name, at a birthday, a barbecue, a holiday dinner, I have to bite the inside of my cheek to keep from smiling. 'Cause they don't know. But I do. And so does she.